Good morning for day 2 of the first ever eLearning Strategies Symposium. Raise your hand if you learned something in the last day and a half. Excellent, excellent. I love that. Wonderful. I'm Mike Lawrence. I'm one of the 2 ringleaders of this little sideshow. Brian Bridges, my partner in crime, is right there with the camera. Thank you again for coming for our first ever plenary session. I want to first apologize. I'm going to have to leave early. The U10 boys soccer team is in need of a head coach. I didn't anticipate that we'd still be playing soccer this far into December, but I'm just that good of a coach. Actually, no, it's thanks to the outstanding players, including my son, so I apologize, but I think you'll agree with me. There's certain things that take priority, so Brian will carry on, and the fine rest of the steering committee will carry on without me from this point on. But I couldn't leave without introducing one of my favorite people, a mentor to me, your plenary session speaker. I have 2 quick announcements, and then I'll introduce him. First off, I neglected to mention that the annual Q conference that I showed a slide of yesterday, you could actually win a registration to attend. Let me say it again. You could actually win a registration to attend. That's what I thought I'd hear. So yes, among the raffle items you have this afternoon after Susan Patrick's talk, Brian will be raffling off to 1 lucky winner, a conference registration, and 1 year of Q membership for one of the raffle prizes, 1 lucky winner. So I just want to make sure you knew that. And then I mentioned it, but I want to point out that the Infinite Thinking Machine, your favorite internet TV show, whose host just walked in the room, Ramsey Musalam right there, redonkulously talented right there. That guy, have you seen him? Vote early and often. It's up for an award for EduBlog's Best Podcast. There are other amazing candidates as well, so please review, take a look. For your consideration, I offer the Infinite Thinking Machine. And lastly, I want to let you know that I have sent you all an email because I don't think you have enough email. And I sent you 1 additional email because as attendees at the first ever eLearning Strategy Symposium, Q is very pleased to offer you discount membership. If you would like to join Q or renew your membership if you're a current member, we're offering you a special 50% off discount if you use the promo code that I sent in your email. I'm giving you 50% off Q membership. Okay, all right, okay. I guess you were expecting free membership because Chris Bell said something yesterday. Thanks for stealing my thunder bit, Chris. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to Hall Davidson, Director of Global Learning for Discovery Education. Prior to that, he worked at what was KOCE, that is now PBS SoCal, which is literally next door, and did a fabulous job doing the work there of promoting the use of media in the classroom, and was a personal mentor to me and a professional leader. He was on the Q Board of Directors, so he either gets the blame or the credit for hiring me. And I give you, ladies and gentlemen, Emmy Award-winning, LA resident, former Afro-wearing,
and always ready,
father of Emma
and Blake, who's student teaching as we speak.
Student teaching?
Yeah.
Outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, Hall Davidson.
Thank you. Good about our time. I was getting batteries in the back, which becomes more important as you get older. Anyway, all right.
Carry them in your pocket?
No, yeah, I'm in the back. You just you start to pass out and they bring you stuff. All right, so let me get started. It's nice to be here. I think this is a great event. I don't know if Mike already said this, but let's thank Brian and Mike for putting this together, don't you think? So it's been fun to be here. It's always fun to come back to Orange County, of course. I don't know how I made that drive for 10 years from LA to here, but it was interesting. But I did. It's a long, strange path from middle school math department chair to global learning initiatives. And it's always fun to point out that no one knows actually what that means, that title. No one at Discovery knows what it means, which is perfect. So I get to do whatever I want. Anyway, it's a wonderful thing. So we're going to talk about digital learning. You're here. A lot of you are. How many of you are working in a blended environment or an online environment, right? How many wish you were? All right. So we're going to talk about what it means when you make that digital transition. When you go digital, place doesn't become as important. Neither does a lot of other things that used to really dictate to what we do. So I call this how the old book becomes a new backpack. Because once you go digital, a lot of things change. And this is a look ahead at what those changes are going to be. Sometimes the unforeseen consequences of that. I was just at the California School Board Association last week, and they were you'll be pleased, and are very receptive to this message of going digital and what it all was. So they're clearly on board with that. So let's get started with this. That was the session I did up there. So if you ever have to convince your school board, let me know. You can download this whole thing from here. They seem to like it. So they get the sense, too, that it's inevitable. So one of the reasons that it's cool, and I love this picture, one because it's kind of a fake picture because they blended a lot of photographs together, but it talks about really what we deal with in education is this. These are the cognitive skills. Can you pass the high-stakes test? Can you do this stuff? Do you know your times tables? What are the parts of a cell? That's the cognitive skills, and we spend a lot of time on that. And this is the non-cognitive skills, the parts where you love yourself, or you love learning, and you love life, and you become a productive citizen. All that stuff. We don't spend much time on that, do we, as we need to? But we used to. We really used to. The nice thing about this digital transition is it's going to let teachers go back to spending more time down here because the machines are going to do a lot of this. And what does that mean when you deal with it down here? It means this, that I can come up to you and I say, hi. Oh, you're not wearing your name tag. What's your name? Arlene. Arlene, good. Did you actually pay to come in here? Okay, good. I'm just checking. No, that's all right. You don't have to get your badge. But so I just killed the whole effect. But what I wanted to say was that I noticed you're taking physical notes, which is a really good thing because it shows you're really paying attention. So as we move to digital, I think you, Arlene, are going to probably come away with this as much as anybody else. You're going to go back to where you are and be the leader. Wouldn't you agree? All right, so that's a non-cognitive thing that I do. Will a student learn better when you tell them they're great? Will they like school better if they think they're smart? I mean, all those are things we really used to spend a lot of time doing. A good teacher would find something in everybody, right? Something in everybody that worked. Now we're killing ourselves trying to hit the numbers up here. So the machines are going to get better. Teaching is going to get a whole lot more fun in maybe 5 years. And really, it's not far away. Well, let me ask you this. Okay, you laugh. Hold up your hand like this. Hold up your fist like this. Hey, you too. All right, so I want you to ask yourselves, and the answer is going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, or 1. When did the iPad come out? Not the iPhone. How many years ago did the iPad come out? How many years ago did the iPad come out? Was it 5? Wasn't 0. They're already out. So is it 5, 4? So we look around. So here's a 4. There's a 3, 3, 3, 2, 3. This is a savvy group. There's a 5 back there. You get a lot of 5s. It's been out 2.5 years. So that's pretty astonishing. And really, when it first came out, in terms of education, it was a brick. It really didn't do anything. You ask the Apple people, what are you supposed to do with this in a school? They'd go, you're going to laugh, but Angry Birds. I mean, really, that's what they told me. So now, really it's only been out 2 years, maybe a year and a half in a significant way. Don't you think it's been a wave that's changed everything? So if you're behind now, how far are you going to be behind in 3 years? So as we move forward with this, we're going to find this part's going to be a whole lot more fun very soon. And here's an example. This is a Canadian kindergarten class. I pulled it off Twitter. Gene Sharesky's my friend, a guy that works at the Discovery Educator Network in Canada. It's his wife's class. And here's why I think this is so significant. Not because they seem to be one-to-one, and that's great. I'm not sure one-to-one is necessarily the way to start anything. 1 to 3 is fine. 1 to 5 is fine. You just want to get started. But here's why it's significant. This is going to be their book. This is their book when they come to school. What's the first thing they see in their book? Themselves. Themselves. Middle school math, the hardest part is, here's why this is going to be important to you. You need to know algebra. It's important to you and your life. It's like, what? I mean, a big part of our energy was spending the bridge saying, this is why it's important to you. Here, they're already in the book, right? The same thing that's going to bring the Pythagorean theorem brings them. And if you think how many advertisers kill themselves but to put somebody like you in the ad for stuff you want to buy, right? Got to have a brunette, got to be this age, got to be this. I mean, we have these pan-generic people now who are trying to hit everybody. Here, we've hit it right on the mark. This kid is there. When they create content, it's there. Their pictures are there. Their music is there. You might not run after the bus for your science book, right? You're a teacher. Your teacher's guide's on the subway. Do you run after it? Maybe. If your music's there and your pictures are there, then you maybe pick up the pace? Yeah, so that's what it is for these guys. And that's to me, that's a really profound shift that you're actually going to move right into here. And as you create content and do this other stuff, this is going to be who they are. That's pretty neat. So this is a primary class. So if those books are very cool, we get this transition, right, that we're going to move from, this is my daughter's backpack, she's 16, it weighs what you can imagine, you know, that amount. We know it's going to go from this to these materials, right? How many of you think the transition to digital from print to digital is inevitable? I mean, don't you think? It's just a matter of time, really, before you get textbooks. They're cheaper. Discovery's just $45 paid over 6 years, as opposed to what I used to pay as a math department chair for my math lecture was $80. I mean, they're cheaper, they're better, and they work better with these kind of learners. Okay, so that's cool. We can talk about that. We'll talk about it a little bit. But the main thing is these other consequences. What we used to put all this stuff in, the backpack, is now going to be in all this stuff. That's the bonus that you get when you go digital. Not that you're just having a different medium. We're in zeros and ones. It's a whole significant shift. I mean, right now, think about the books you have with kids, right? If they find something that's really great, can they write in the book, this is really great? No, right? You punish them for that, even though it's exactly what you want them to say. Right? You really love this book? Write it on the brown paper on the front, which we will throw away at the end of the year, right? I mean, that's how it works. So that's different than having your stuff and your material in the book. So there's a backpack. This is actually me holding a backpack. This is true. And here's a colleague with, with this. So it's not just that we're going digital and we'll all save our backs and chiropractic care in the future. It's that once we're here, we can do all this other stuff. All this other stuff. It's got cameras. It's got microphones. It's really neat. So we're going to go there. But first, let's talk about this in general. If these books are so magical, it would be great if only we had students who could figure out digital, right? If only we had kids. Okay. So this is obviously a joke, right? I mean, if you really, and I have lots of videos to show this, but instead we're running out of, we don't have time to show all these videos, but go on YouTube and search for 2-year-olds on iPads, right? There's more of those videos than cats on YouTube. It's kid trying to pinch a magazine, right? So we know these kids will do this. It's not just a transition, and it's not just all these other tools. It's the fact that it matches the way we learn. It's the way we've always learned, right? We didn't evolve to be scribes. That wasn't part of the way our brains are put together. So this is really going to be something better and different, which is why it's going to be so cool. So when you look at kids, this is a couple of studies. One, this is the one laptop per child. Maybe you know this story. Basically, you can see they put a bunch of boxes together, dropped it in a village that didn't really even have signposts and stuff, just to see if the kids could do it. They had taken them out within 4 minutes. They opened the box, found the on-off switch. These are our Android devices, and they powered it up. 5 days in, no instruction, just a box in the village, using 47 apps per kid, right? 47 days, they're singing within 2 weeks, they're singing ABC songs, all that kind of stuff. And as Dr. Negropani said, some idiot had disengaged the camera in the laptops. These kids hacked in and figured out how to turn it on. These are kids in a village that didn't have electricity. They figured it out. So there's something about the way we learn that's going to help. Decoding is not a natural experience. This is much more natural in the way that it goes. Now, one of the other things that's interesting is they did the same study in Peru, and it did not succeed. Why? Because they used it in the school system. So same devices, but it didn't have the effect because it didn't do what the teachers wanted it to do. And really what the teachers needed it to do. You're following a course of study. You're not just playing around singing your ABCs. There's the curriculum you're supposed to deliver. So what that means is you really have to make sure the system is ready. I'm not sure it's good to they talked about this yesterday, to drop 15,000 iPads on a district, right? I mean, you want to make sure that people that have them want them, they want to use them, they want to be able to do that. You want Ethiopia, not Peru, when it happens, and that's because you've got to get the system ready too. That means professional development, that means all this other stuff. So even though these are magical boxes, magical tools, we still have to do some work on that. We don't want it the new ideas to go here. And this is my friend Carolyn McGuire, who's recovering from back surgery, always said this is the teacher's lounge. This is where good ideas go to die, right? That's what Carol Ann says. So this is, get it? This is the teacher's lounge. What is this? This is a black hole, that's right. So you've got to make sure that everybody comes on board. Yes, these are magical devices, and we're so glad we get our iPads, thank you, district, but you really have to make sure it's used in a meaningful way, and that comes over and over again. Here's another new why that's important. Susan Patrick is going to follow me here, who runs iNACOL, and this was a study that I pulled out from from her conference. Plato hired Marzano. Anybody know Marzano? Marzano, who does a big assessment guy, to look at this online environment and this online system that Plato had, and to see how it worked and what it wasn't working. And this is all online, and people would communicate and send messages, and there wasn't a one-to-one correspondence with how many messages people sent to kids. The one-to-one correspondence, the only one they found, was teacher engagement. The more time the teachers spent in the system, in other words, the more time they logged on, the higher their student achievement was. What? The teachers that were most engaged had a student achievement rate that was basically a grade level. Just because the teachers, they got it, they understood it. They were there because they clearly enjoyed the system or it did what they needed it to do. If they weren't there, your students were here. That was the only one-to-one correspondence. When teachers get engaged, student achievement, not student engagement, not I like this stuff, student achievement is measured by a test, much like the standardized test we take, goes up. So you have to get teachers involved. And you want to get teachers involved, and that's why these conferences are really good. So, okay, if that's true, what does this all mean? I have to go back, we have to explain, we're going digital. What does it really mean? Because people don't really know. So here's sort of my digital rules. One, if you have digital content in your schools on that device, on those devices you all have, right, it should be able to be dynamically updated, right? So that when something changes, maybe you're not online at home, but when you come to school, boom, it all gets updated, right? That's the first thing you should have, the advantages of being digital. It's not just like a book on an iPad or on a laptop or on a Chromebook. It actually updates itself right away, which is pretty cool. Also, it should be able to use those digital tools. Any resource that pretends it's just a PDF file shouldn't be something you really want. You really want it to use the tools that are in the device. That means the camera, that means the ability to create content, the ability to make movies. All that stuff should be in there. You should be able to do content creation. That's another thing. Should be account-based, which means that, like Facebook, you don't have to really have your Chromebook in your backpack. You just go over to grandma's house and use her Android phone, and you're on looking at your assignments and the tests you've completed and what you have left to do. Right? You don't have to be in your house to update your Facebook page, correct? So these resources should be account-based. They should live in the cloud, which means that you don't have to worry about the penetration of devices every place. It should be account-based. It also should be really cross-platform. So you really don't want to get locked into something that only works on a single platform. And you know, the biggest, well, you know what I'm talking about. But there's devices that sell things that only work on that device. That's the plan. Then you get locked in. Oh, now we have to buy more of these. You don't really want that. You want something that'll work on everything. And for producers, and I'll tell you for the textbook that I've worked on, this is a killer because, you know, had this great one, flash-based, fabulous, like, oops. So you have to change it all when a platform changes, right? So you want to make sure it works on every platform. All right, so that's how that stuff works. Obvious example, Encyclopedia Britannica, right? They don't print it anymore. Did you know that? They stopped printing. They stopped printing the Britannica. This was the last year, which raised sales all over the world because it was the last one, right? So when it stopped, the president said, a printed encyclopedia is obsolete the minute that you print it, which was true all the years they sold it, right? All the years they sold it, they knew that was true. So what we don't want then is something that's not updatable. And that means, let's look at some things that aren't a digital book. And look, I finally got to use the fossil fish background in PowerPoint. I've been trying forever to actually use that. I'm a big evolution fan, but anyway, I finally got to use it. So this is the last algebra book I taught out of, right? The Dulciani. Anybody know that book? Great book. Great book. When problems were hard. You know what I mean? That was something I could not figure out. Those were the books. Anyway, it was not a digital book. Neither is this. Oh, this comes in the back and it's all in zeros and ones. Doesn't matter. It might as well not be digital. You can't update it, right? Something can change. You can't update it. There's a mistake or something happens in Egypt. Doesn't matter. You can't change it. So this might as well not be a update. So you have to be careful. Here's another one. I downloaded this from the Apple Store. This is done by a major publisher. And here's how digital it is. Here's the main way it's digital. Instead of changing the pages by going left to right, you go up and down like that. That's really it. I paid $14, and really all it does is go up and down. So I find this tool, right? Here's a sensor tool. It's like a calculator. So I click on that, and it brings up a bigger picture of the same calculator, right? So it might as well not be digital. Yes, it was authored, and yes, it lives there, but that's really not what we're going for, is it? Is that kind of stuff. So it might as well not be a digital book. Digital books really should be different. In your digital book, you know, we're really good at ancient Egypt. We're not so good with current Egypt, right? Here's Mubarak. In your book, it should say that he's no longer president of Egypt, right? George Bush should not be president in any book in California, but of course is all over the state. I mean, that's just the way it is when you have a long adoption cycle. Wouldn't it be interesting if we had an internet that only changed every 6 years? Time for updates, okay. Anyway, we don't do it that way. So this is what you should have. That's digital. That's what digital really means. So here's Pluto, right? Pluto's not a planet, so you can update that. But in addition to that, here's something I found that Pluto is really cool, Kepler body that it is, because it has phases just like Earth and Mars does in terms it goes through visible surface changes based on sublimation. So that was kind of cool. So I can put that in with video, which means that I have a device and I can update it. It's pretty quick. So the big change again is the change to match the learners. We're not matching the device. It just so happens that this also turns to match learners. So let's say we want to learn something about cells. Anybody had a cold recently? Cold or flu? So this is the story of the cold or flu, and you can do it two different ways. You can look at it in the text version, or you can look at it with a video. And let me cheat a little bit and turn it up.
Every single day, 1 trillion times over.
All right, how many of you are at the second paragraph? How many of you? I mean, really,
This
not only is
battlefield
this
was
so
once a
cool
healthy
because this
human
is actually
cell.
what it looks like inside
Now,
a cell, we now know.
it's disintegrating
you can
into tiny
animate it, you
pieces.
can show how it works. That's pretty cool. And that's important
virus has
if you're a
overrun its
learner,
defenses
because
and
again,
unleashed an army of clones.
decoding is a very
An army
difficult
so
tap dance. You
focused
recognize
is to
this as a
reproduce
symbol,
and
it's got to go to
destroy
one part of
as
your
many
brain.
cells
What does
in
it
our
really mean?
body
You
as
decode, it's
possible.
literally decoding. And
Resulting in
that's
disease
unfortunate
or
because
even
guess
death.
what does that say? Well, not exactly, but I can see how you'd think that, because our brain doesn't need all that stuff to really work, right? Our brain doesn't need. So that's the way it happens, and it happens in reading. Yes, I love reading. I'll die with an old pulped up tree on my chest. But when you get to this area, what does that say? Oh, come on, science and math, work with me, work with me. It's easy. When you get to that, why should we stop with decoding? And you know, we all know that our math scores are bad compared to the world, and our science scores, we're not turning out scientists and mathematicians. It's because we made it so unfun. I taught math for more than a decade in a completely linear, completely useless way, really. It was the way I learned. But you know, you come into the class in those days, and by the second week, I could tell you your grades, right? Don't you think? The kids knew their grades. I knew their grades. I mean, we went through this exercise of the test and stuff, but it's because of the way we taught it. We didn't do 3D stuff. We didn't explore what it really means to be mathematical. I mean, Common Core is going to be very cool when it comes out, but that's why that stuff's important. So it means that when you go digital, you might be able to have something like this. So this is a digital science book, and yeah, it's neat, and you've got, oh, you can change the font. Where's my cursor? Reappear. Oh, here we go. Look, science and math. See if I can get this to, here we go. So this is a tech, and we need the sound up for this. So yeah, it's got lessons and all this other stuff on the side, but one of the cool things is I can highlight it, and then a little box comes up, just like certain websites will do this, right?
In 1977, NASA scientists launched
So
two
that's pretty
probes,
cool.
Voyager 1 and Voyager 2.
So that's pretty neat, but not only will it do it in one language, I can actually change it over to Spanish. If I click on Spanish, not only do I get the Spanish language translation, which is easy in a certain way, but I can highlight, and what's going to happen now? It's going to read to me in Spanish. So it's
Conociendo la formación de nuestro sistema solar. En 1977, los científicos de la NASA lanzaron dos sondas, Voyager 1 y
able to
Voyager
actually
2.
do that stuff in here. And what does that mean? Well, here's another number for you. What is 200? 200 is what I hear from the people who do Lexile scores, is the gain you get if a book reads to you. Suddenly, you're hearing it, you're seeing it, and you know, this is important. Although I taught language arts in addition to math and some Spanish, I didn't really know what the Lexile scores were. I looked it up. That's a pretty big hop. And that's what happens if you have a book read to you. Suddenly, you're not blocked by something that used to block you. And that's not true for every kid, but we lose a lot of them, right? We can now get that whole spectrum going. We can grab a whole bunch of kids we didn't used to get. Now, we all succeeded because we went back into education, right? We couldn't have hated it. I hate school. I think I'll work there. I mean, so we're caught in this loop, right? But for kids, this is a whole way to open up the way that it works. That's pretty neat. So not only that, but like look at this. Here's another book. And this book is kind of cool because this is a newer version of a digital. And take a look at this. Yes, I can change the fonts and stuff, but if you notice this, I can also change the reading level. So I'm now change the font size, yes, but I can change the reading level. That means that instead of doing what I used to do, which is you had these books and you hope they don't notice the dots on the side, because really it's the same book you had in the 7th grade, but you're not supposed to know that, so we put dots to tell you, what. Anyway, now you can actually modify the book to match you. Not just the pictures in there. Suddenly it's able to deliver science, atoms, and elements in a way that you're better able to understand. So that's, again, a very significant part, and it's what's going to drive this movement over to digital. So this is in Napa. This was kind of fun. They funded a preschool project in Napa, and these are second language learners, and they wanted to see if they could bridge the gap when people came to first grade. All right, when they came to kindergarten. This is preschool, to see if using an iPad in a one-to-one environment in a language development program could actually get them more ready to be up with their English language peers. So they did this, and I'm Skyping in some days. And I'm Skyping in, and it's the typical, preschool class. Here's the bucket. Here's a kid with a bucket on his head. I mean, you do the same thing. But what was fun was when they got when they did story circles and all the same stuff you do. But then they brought out the iPad for this one application. I don't know if you can hear this.
Are you guys, are they logging in? Okay, Leslie, you log on, it's okay?
So, she's saying this to preschool kids. Are you logging in? You have the password? We hear this every day as adults, right? So how many of you have heard that before? Right, way too often. So now we're starting in preschool. So they had no problem. They come in. They become to do this. Anyway, it turned out that the data on this is they did it for 4 weeks. This is in Calistoga, and this is the way they raised their reading comprehension on the scale that they used. That's pretty huge for 4 weeks. So they decided, this was Barbara Nemko, who was overseeing this in Superintendent of Napa County. She said, okay, we got to expand it. Got to go raise some money from the vintners, and they got a lot of money. Now they've expanded that program. But that's no matter where you look, really, if digital is done correctly, you get these giant hops. It's just the way we learn. It just matches our learning style, which is pretty huge. That means it's going to drive stuff. And here's again, they did teacher surveys. Did anybody have no problems? No. This is the people with no issues. There's no bar here. Everybody had issues, right? So the big issues were, did they have wireless access? They didn't quite know how to do the installation of apps. I mean, these are the things you have when you get a new device, right? So you had to overcome all that, and they did it with training in some areas and other ways and other things. But that's how this stuff works. When they did the final study, the teachers said, look, we want to learn we need time to adapt the apps to the curriculum the student needs. I mean, all this stuff seems fairly obvious. This is preschool teachers that have figured this out, right? Is this still true in high school? Yes. So look, learn how to use social media to link with other teachers. Social media is a very big tool. Twitter, I love Twitter. We were talking in the session I did last, and they said, how do you keep up? It's like Twitter. How many of you have Twitter accounts? How many of you do not have Twitter accounts? All right, keep your hands up. Here's how strongly I feel about this. If you sign on today for a Twitter account, I will personally cover the cost for the first 2 years. Shut up, you're killing me. Yeah, I will. Anyway, so it's free, do it. It's really a neat thing to do. So, but you have to get that going. That may not be obvious just because you change devices, but it turns out it's really an important part. So the primary teachers, said, this is what we need, right? And it's true. Believe me, if they need it in primary, they need it in high school more. I mean, really. Have anybody done training across the spectrum? It's the high school people you really cross your arms. I've been doing this for 45 years. What are you going to tell me? I don't need electricity in this room. Anyway, so that's how it works. So it's good because they don't bog down the network, right? High school people, until they discover Pandora, then you're in trouble. Anyway, so that's it. So let's look at the digital book. What does it really mean? So here's, yes, we know it's got digital curriculum, and yes, it'll read to me and do that other stuff, and that's the cool part. It'll let me pick my reading level. So once I'm there, once I've made that transition, I've tried to save some money by buying textbook and moved it into digital so I can do the dynamic updates and all other stuff. What's the other part that's cool? And the other part that's cool is this stuff that comes along with it. So like, look, here's, let's switch over to the iPad. Let's wake up the iPad first. Let's go There he is. There's our young teacher at LeConte Middle School. He's student teaching in the last place I taught. Isn't that weird? Anyway, yeah. Are any of the people still there? No, they're all gone. That's kind of sad, really. All right, so, but I taught with a guy named Joseph LeConte. It was, that's how old I am. All right, I'm kidding. All right, so this is my digital book now. So I've got my digital science, I got this because I have the digital science on there. But in addition, I have other stuff too. So I can read. So here's reading. Anybody like science fiction? Anybody here like science fiction? Okay, so let me ask you, Brian, then. Why don't you come up? You're kind of a ringer, but I'll pick somebody then. Pick somebody else. You pick somebody else. Okay, good. So come on up. And if I want to do some just reading for pleasure, what app do you see up there that you'll probably pick? Go up. Go ahead. My favorite pick? Yeah, go up. I mean, if you're going to read, what would you think? I mean, I've been reading science fiction. What do you think? What app do you think I've been reading with? This is not a trick question. Well, I actually kind of like the Kindle app, so click on that and see what happens.
I read on my iPad because it's easier to see in the sun.
In the sun? Oh, yeah, good. Click on that. We'll bring the sun in for you. All right, so this is a book, right? So it's a science fiction book, and there's the word Callisto on it, right? Callisto. Now, I don't have to be connected to read on this, correct? Once I've downloaded the book, this will work. So I can get a definition, I can do more things. But let's say I want to explore even more. Let's say I want to look in the encyclopedia. So you see encyclopedia on there? Yeah, the wiki. So I downloaded the entire, I downloaded the entire Wikipedia on my iPad. So it'll work whether I'm on an airplane or in a submarine, it'll all work. So type in, remember the word we're looking for, Callisto? So it's Callisto. Do you like it apart?
Like that.
You want to put it together
you do it
here?
with 2 hands?
There you go. See, as a BlackBerry user, I have to have the 2 thumb thing. You know what I mean? It's those of us who are left in the old technology. So, yeah, Callisto Astronomy. So what she's done is started reading a book, but she has a whole encyclopedia in her backpack. You ever seen a kid with a whole set of encyclopedias in their backpack? You really don't see that. Do you ever let a kid take a whole set of encyclopedias home? No, we just don't do that. But in this, I've got all of it. So I can explore, and see those blue links? Is there anything else you'd like to read about? We can go with Galileo or all these other things that you can drift around in. Is this a good thing for a kid to be able to do? So we have to, huh? Not for ADD. Yeah, not for ADD. Look, over here. I've read the entire encyclopedia in 2 weeks. So this is the kind of thing that you have now that we have to learn to do. There's not silos anymore. We don't have to go into the library to do this. So let's look at that. And do you see anything else on here about the solar system if you want to learn even more about Callisto? I'd go with the one that says solar system.
I picked that one first and you said no.
I meant to say later. Okay, so there we go. So there's solar system. And we've actually got sound on that too. We might as well have sound. Hang on. Yeah, hear the sound as it's playing its little atmospheric sound. All right, you can bring the sound up again. All right, so it's up now. So go ahead. Nice mysterious sound coming in. But pick a planet and take a look. So this is pick a planet. You can pick Callisto if you want. It's up there, but pick another one. So there's Titan. What does the back of Titan look like, do you think? There we go. So isn't that kind of neat? So suddenly I've started with a book, and I've ended up with something where I can actually look around at how it works. And if you were really rich in the Renaissance, you had what's called an Ori, one of those little models that they made, with all that stuff. So click on that up in the corner, and you can actually see where Titan is in the whole solar system. So there's the solar system. And why don't you just play around with it a little bit. See if I can turn up my sound. See if I've got, there we go. There is sound on there somewhere. But so she's able to look around and explore. How many of you work with somebody who feel they are the center of the universe? Anybody work with somebody like that? So here she actually is the center of the solar system, at least for a while. So she can explore with that. Isn't that fun? So all that happens, none of that is dependent on the web. All that is just basically in my backpack because it was downloaded and uploaded when I was at school or at a Starbucks or something else. So let's give her a hand. Thank you very much. Very nice. So surprising. So those are the apps that I have, but there's other stuff too. There's, in addition, if this is my book, I can do other stuff too. Let's look at some of the other things I can do in here. Let's look at this. And this is, I don't know if you heard in the bio, but I taught Spanish for a while, and I'm glad I did math. This is a free app called WordLens. This is the program, right? So let's look at this. And the program happens to be in English, which is, sort of a negative if I'm a Spanish speaker. But one of the nice things I can do here is I can, let me switch my aspect ratio so you can see this in the right space. Here we go. So take a look. Can you see it? It's actually translating it into Spanish in real time. So there we go. That's kind of neat, huh? So that's free. They sell you. Isn't that neat? So you try this with a regular textbook? Nothing. Trust me. Nothing. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, it's a free. I'll show you more of it. Since you seem to like it. It's a free app. It's called WordLens. They sell you the dictionaries. But here's how it works. It's called WordLens. So it's English to Spanish. You can scramble words, unscramble words. This is kind of cool. It's really meant for street signs more than for Don Quixote. But take a look at some of the things you might want when you travel. And this is done on a phone, not on an iPad. Like, what does that mean? Well, again, it's not doing it on the web. It's doing it in the book itself, right? So it's not web-based. You might want to know about web closings, right? You might be in a restaurant. You really want to know what that means. You know the word. And here's one that's really important, I think. Clothing optional on this speech. So that's what happens when I move to this device. And I got to let everybody know what it'll do, but suddenly I'm really in a whole new environment. Remember, none of the things we saw require an internet connection. All that stuff will work. Once I've installed it, it'll work fine. WordLens doesn't need the internet. But if I'm in an internet-based world, then I can do more real-time translation. So this was an Android app. It's now also available on the iPhone. But it's called the Google Translate. Do you have this? How many people have this? So this is pretty cool. This is, again, I've got other samples, but this is a real case that I found of a state trooper. And this state trooper is following this guy. And it's in the middle of the day, but he's going all over the road. So what do you think first? Yeah, you think this guy's drunk. He's weaving. So he pulls this guy over. The guy is elderly. He's Chinese. He speaks no English. So fortunately, he had just installed this app. He tells the story longer, but he had just installed it. So he types in what it wants to say, and then it speaks it in Chinese for the elderly guy.
And it was actually kind of comical because he started talking back to my phone.
He asked about medication. Paramedics arrived and took the man's blood sugar reading. It was 540, more than 5 times normal. The man was taken to the hospital, and Halloran has been...
Anyway, isn't that cool? And here's what it does. She comes in, and I say to her, "What'd you do at school today?" And she says, "Nothing." And I push the button, and it goes. You become a responsible individual. I don't care about your room. I just want you to have some rules in it, learn how to structure. Anyway, so it's it's free. It's free. Okay, I made that up. So here's something else you can do. A couple other things you can do as long as you have your book, and that's this. Let's take this. This also has a couple of other things in it. It's got not only a processor, etc. It's also got a camera. So here's the camera, and the camera's all cool. Oh, look, it's Susan Patrick. The camera's all cool and stuff. Here's just the straight camera. Well, once I've got the camera, there's a lot of stuff I can do with it, but what I did was glue a grommet on the back. So then I got that, I went to Amazon and got a microscope for $3, right? So I got the microscope, glued a grommet on it, super glued it on, and that meant that now I have a microscope that I can use on my camera. So I like to show the $5 bill. Look, here's the 5. Why? Here's Lincoln's eyeball. Isn't that cool? Could I take a picture of that? Sure. Here's what's also fun. What's on the back? What's that called? What's the monument on the back of the Lincoln 5 called? Lincoln Monument, that's right. So I'll show you this because I showed this in one of my sessions, and people started looking really closely. If you look above the columns, you've got the names of the states. See that? Did you know that? The names of the states are over the thing in the $5 bill. So that's kind of cool. You can also, look at fabric. I mean, and if it gets too dark, for $3 I got the light too, so I can turn on the light and look at it with even better detail. That's kind of cool. And I can't resist doing this again, so now I need you up here, Brian. Come on. So just stand right here. Just stand right there. And lean forward a little bit. I don't know if you've had this problem at your school, but yes, let me see your head. Yeah, I am. Here, bring it up.
No.
You want to see? We had head lice at my daughter's school, so look, a little bit more. Come on.
You owe me.
Okay, I do. But isn't that cool? Look. Oh, is that moving? Wait, what is that? Anyway, you see, isn't that neat? So thank you, Brian. Give him a hand. So again, you glue a microscope onto a science book, nothing, really, nothing. But this lets me, could I make a video with this? Could I do that? Yeah, so I found a grasshopper. It was a grasshopper was part of the Screen Actors Guild, and I made a video. So this is a grasshopper that I found on my porch eating a flower. You'll see where I took some of the flour back when it's squished, but you can see that this is pretty good detail, right? I mean, I just picked up the grasshopper. This is outdoors, so it's a lot better environment than here. You'll recognize that's what we saw in Brian's hair, that same kind of little leg. Now we look how unkempt this grasshopper is. Look at the stuff on its feeler. Anyway, I added music. I used an app called Real Director and kind of framed it up, added music. But every kid with a book can go out and grab an image. You're no longer dependent on what we see in the same sense. You're going to have, there are now sensor apps that do lots of things with your blood pressure, with height, with the color of your color and stuff like that. All those are really expensive right now, but which means ultimately they'll be there for your high school kids, right? Your kids who are those primary kids we saw in Napa. By the time they are 12th graders, what is this device going to be doing? I mean, it's really going to be interesting, and it's what? It's going to be really interesting, and when it does, it means teachers are going to be able to spend a lot more time teaching in the way that teachers really can do. So if you want to learn how to do that, there's the link. It's on YouTube. I show how to glue this on there, and I'll tell this story one more time. I've already told too much at this conference, but you glue this thing on, and when you glue it on, there's a certain downside because the glue is very near the power button. So I glued this on somebody named Leslie Fisher's phone. Usually you do it on a case, and then you put the phone in and out of the case, so then you got a microscope case, right? She said, since you've done that, I haven't been able to turn off my iPhone. And I thought, why is that? There's nothing to do. Then I realized some of the super glue had gone up onto the power button. So I called her and said, all you got to do is, how do you take off super glue? Yeah, nail polish, right? Nail polish remover. So I said, just do some nail polish remover. And Leslie said, oh no, I already got a new one under warranty. So they didn't figure it out either, right? Oh, here I have a new phone. Oh, anyway, you didn't hear that here. But that's how that stuff works. Because it's invisible. Oh, people are writing that one down. So I made a video how to do this. Here's the power of the web. Somebody saw it when I posted it, a guy named Tim Holt. So he did it in a studio, made a much better video of how to glue the grommet on and how to do that. So Tim did a better job, Tim Holt. And then a student saw it online and said, I'll use the app Explain Everywhere and do it. And he did it a much better job. So they kept getting shorter and shorter. The kid did it in a minute and a half, right? So if you go, that's how stuff goes viral. Anyway, all that for a microscope that cost how much? I forgot. Yeah, $3. So let's look at some other stuff you can do with these devices. Let's go back. And this is we'll use another app. This one's called Erasma. Anybody know Erasma? So Erasma's kind of fun. Erasma lets you add a different reality to what the camera sees. So the camera might see this thing, but the teacher can insert something and then put it on top. That's what the camera can do, can add something else. So here's we'll move away from the $5 to the $20 bill. So here's a $20 bill, and you can see it's just what it looks like. It's a 20. But when I look at it through the augmented reality app, look what can happen to the, what the heck? What can happen to this bill? So look. And notice I'm not doing anything. And we can have the sound up on this. If we could crank the sound, it would be great. You got the sound cranked? Okay, good. That means I've got the wrong thing in. But look at it over here. Look. And look, see, there it is. It's just that, there's that bill. It's just laying right there. So let me get the sound so that you can actually hear it. I've got the, this is what I have to plug into here. We were kind of limited in our setups. Let's try it one more time. So there's the bill, right? Let's take a look at the bill. And oh, it's sideways. Tell me if it's sideways, you guys. Wait, you want to see it regular? Did you see it sideways the whole time? Oh, you guys can tell me. All right, so let's try it. This will be more fun. Here. Now notice, nothing's happened to the 20. It's still laying there. This is all the iPad, or whatever device you have, laying on a new layer on top of it. Isn't that fun? And again, see, it's still there. There's the 20. That's how it works. So it means that anytime I have something I want to add a new layer on, I can add a new layer. And this is too much fun not to do this. So let's go into, what session was that, Mike, that we did? The mobile session. So I wanted to make one, so I got a picture of Mike. The way you do it is this. You find a thing you want to add an augmented reality in. So like somebody went to the Empire State Building, and they held it up and took a picture of the Empire State Building. Then they added King Kong from the video climbing up the side. So now when anybody loads this app, and they're in New York City, and they hold it up to the Empire State Building, they see King Kong crawling up the side. So you can add this any place. So any place around can become a meaningful learning environment. So I wanted to do this with, I wanted to make one, so I made one for the session yesterday, and I made it with Mike Lawrence. So here's Mike's face. And, oh yeah, we'll switch over. Well, now I won't see it through there. So here's, let me go back so it knows I'm not making one, and just make sure that it's there. And then let's go over and take a look at Mike's face. So,
hello, I'm Mike Lawrence, and I think you're in the best session of the day. Don't you? It's just awesome.
Anyway, so
Thank
isn't that
you.
fun? So anytime this sees that picture of Mike Lawrence, it will kick into that video. So it means that you can put in, trees or whatever you want to do, and it's just the way that you can do it. That's one of the things that you can do when you kind of go mobile. So that's another of the great reasons you want to go digital. So here's another one, and this is also very cool. Let's launch this book. Anybody have this book? Anyway, so this is one you can download in the Apple Store, and it's, it's about harvesting the wind and geothermal energy, and I can look at maps and charts and maybe watch a video or something else, and I've got interactive things that I can do, which is pretty neat. One of the fun things that you can also do is this. Let's look at, here's harvesting the wind. Let's look at this one, though. This is kind of fun. So we're going to look at a simulation, and I need somebody, let me use you. Can I use you for this, sir? All right, so come up here. You can just stand right here. Let's look at the demonstration of the wind. So I want to show you how a wind turbine would work. So if you just blow right there on the side. Oh, keep blowing. You need more power. See, when you have a lot of wind, can you see what you're doing over there? Look, see, you're actually turning keep going. So he's hasn't got enough wind yet. Keep going yet. The battery's not charged. Keep going. I got somebody who can hyperventilate without an issue. All right, thank you. Let's give him a hand. Excellent work. So isn't this cool? Look, the wind is stopping blowing. There's still a little bit left, but as it slows down, it's got to pick the power up from the battery because he's no longer blowing into my iPad, right? But isn't that neat? So how cool is this? So the way to get this in everybody's hands is you make the leap to a curriculum resource that lives in a digital environment, and you can do all that kind of other cool stuff. So that's pretty neat. Say it again. That book's called Our Choice. It's from Push Pop Press, which is the way that it works. And another thing that's just again to show you. So this is in my backpack. I've got a whole turbine exercise in my backpack. And I'll show you this because in the mobile app session, people really like this. But this is an Android. You can do it from an iPhone too also. But do you know Log Me In? Anybody have Log Me In? It basically lets you log onto whatever computer you have over the internet. So this person has actually opened their PC and is answering their email in Lotus Notes from their phone, right? So you go through the internet, wake up your computer, and then work on your computer desktop. So in your backpack, you have access to however many computers you have. So here's the ones that I have. I have, this is my Discovery PC, and I could, from my phone, wake it up and log on and get my mail on my laptop. My wife loves to do this because she's not so much a mobile person, but she really likes it laid out on her desktop. So she'll go to her desktop, move stuff around, and do executions and payrolls and stuff like that from her laptop, but from her phone. And one time, our kid was in the room. When you're doing this on the desktop, it's a little thing pops up and says, you're being remotely controlled, right? So he knew that. He happened to be walking by. So every time she'd do something, he'd move it back with the mouse. She's going, this no longer works, right? But she'd move it over here, move it back, move it over here, move it back. So she was going crazy till his girlfriend called her and said, look, Blake's doing it. But from my phone, I can control all these different devices. So this is a guy from his Android controlling that. Anyway, it's called Log Me In Ignition. It was expensive when it first came out. I think it's gotten cheaper. You can do this with free apps too, Splashtop and others, but you have to be on the same network. So this way you don't have to be on the same network. So if you're just doing it in school and you got school on the network, you can take out your phone and control all your computers at school. Log into, if you have access to somebody's machine, you can log in and get it and look around, right? So that's pretty cool. Anyway, that's another thing that's pretty neat. Let's do one more, and let's take a look at this one. This is also kind of fun to do. This is called Puppet Pals. We did this in the last session, so why don't we do it one more time? This is it's using the tools that's on that device, and here's the tools we used. I got these pictures of various biomes from Discovery Education's media library, right? So I pull them into the iPad, and these are all biomes, and this is a creature that needs to know where his biome is. So who can define a biome for me? Anybody good at defining a biome? Anybody want to stand up and define a biome? Oh, don't lay back. No one wants to take a stab? So oh, you were there before, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's an ecological habitat. It's everything. It's right, it's the predator and the prey, it's the plants, it's the animals, it's the whole system that works together. It's the environment, it's the heat, it's the temperature, it's all that stuff. So we have this, and forgive me if you were in the last session, because I didn't think we were going to do it there, but we'll do it here. Here's, let's switch over to the iPad. And I need two volunteers for this. Volunteers? Volunteer? Okay, one over there. Good, so come on up. And let's do gender equity. I need a guy, a male, any male? Okay, good, they volunteered you. So come on up, and let's do this in front. Let's give them a little encouragement, come on. How many of you have used Puppet Pals before? Or how many have not seen it before? Okay, so this is a good example of content creation. So let's take a look. Here we go. And I'll let you hold this. We're going to tell the story of this biome, right? So here we go. Here's the biome. And we're going to start, so let's start. And let me edit this because I want you to do it all. We did this in the workshop, so we won't do this now. We're going to delete that. We're going to tell the story of a frog that needs to find the right biome, who often finds himself in the wrong biome. So in order to pull himself into the right biome, he has a fairy godmother. So we're going to click on that. We're going to pick a character to use as the fairy godmother. Now, we want to have a frog, which isn't in this, so I'm going to go to add an actor. We're going to choose an existing image from my camera roll. Oh, yeah, which do you want to be? Who wants to be the fairy godmother? Who wants to be the frog?
I want to be the godmother.
You want to be the godmother? Okay, good. So that leaves you being the frog. Okay, so I'm over here if you're the frog. So we're going to take a picture because we had one. Whoops, we had one of the fairy godmother, but we didn't have one. I was in the wrong app. So let's take a look at. we're going to add an actor from an existing role. Let's go into the camera roll. And let's scroll up till we see if you can find a frog somewhere. There's one that I've downloaded from the media library. Okay, there's a frog. So click on that. And what I want you to do is take your finger and just trace around the frog. Take the part of it you want to use. This is your character. It's going to be you. So you're going to pick the part of it, the frog that you want. And when you draw, like with your finger, it'll be like you're cutting it out with scissors. And you can actually cut up past here. People always think you can't go, but you can actually go over the brown box. So go ahead and take out the part of the frog that you want to represent you. You can go right through that box. All right. So do you accept that? So click accept. Pretty nice. It's sort of a Chernobyl frog. It's only got front legs. But so we'll so click on that and we'll use it. Okay, good. So we'll click on next. All right. So there's our characters. Now we're going to use the background. So pick the ones that are biomes. He got to pick the frog. You pick just click on the. Yeah, that's good. Pick a bunch of them. We'll give the frog a choice. One more. What do you think? It'll do 5 and hit next. Oh, that's good. Okay, so here we go. And these are now the characters. So have you used a device like this before? You're the frog, you can shrink yourself and move around. Oh, so you know this thing. So you can move around like this and be as big or small as you want. You can also move around the frog. So why don't you guys come around over here. She's the godmother. You can be the frog on this side. I'm going to get out of the way. And you can make the frog as big or as little as you want it to be, right? So what's going to happen is it records everything. So make a video right now, a video of everything inside that box. And you, who are the fairy godmother, have the control of the biome. So you can click on those little things up there. So click on another one. So you can pick the one you want, and you can do it in whatever order you want, right? So those are the biomes that you have. One of these would be right for the frog. So you need to recognize when you're in the right biome, correct? They've done your homework, you've signed it online. So are you ready to go as she gets big? So you can start there. So are you ready to go? So talk in a good teacher voice right here, and move it around. Let's just make a video. So there we go.
I think so.
Yeah, you can move them around too if you want.
Well, let me see.
Not surprised. This is perfect.
Oh, wonderful. Do you think you fit in?
I would be great here.
Excellent. I think we found your biome.
Excellent. Let's give him a hand. Fantastic. So, should we see what it looks like? So here's the video they just made.
Well, you seem to be in the wrong place, little frog.
Well, I need help. Can you help me, fairy godmother?
I can help you. I'm the fairy godmother. Is this where you're from?
No, I don't think so.
Well, let me
cool?
see. Let me... Ding! Is this where you're from?
Let me move around. No, I can't find my house here.
Oh, okay. Let me try one more. Ting! Well, this looks right. What do you think?
Let me check. Perfect.
What an
Lots
ungrateful
of flies.
frog.
This is perfect for me.
Oh, wonderful. Do you think you fit in?
I would be great here.
Excellent. I think we found your biome.
Isn't that fantastic? So we'll do one more in a second, but let me just close and leave you this final thought. One of the reasons why this is good is because it taps a whole lot of things that otherwise isn't tapped by a student textbook. That's one reason why we go digital. Content creation, a movie studio, a microphone, all is inside that backpack. That's the book. So why is that so significant? It is cool. Here's one of the reasons why, and I think this is the biggest one of all. Is we used to always think of our kids as bell curves, right? They came in, here's the kids that are really good at math or social studies. Here are the ones that aren't so good, and everybody's in the middle. We really thought everybody fell onto a curve. And they're really beginning to rethink that, because this is good data when you look at big groups, but now when you look at an individual. All these individuals here are good at something, right? So somebody did another study and said, let's take a look at 600,000 people, and let's look at studies and see if it really follows the bell curve, and maybe it follows something else called a power curve. So here's what they found out, and we'll go back to Bloom in a minute. A power curve means that, this is a power curve, that most people aren't so good at this stuff, and then you have a very few people at the very tip of the curve that are. These are people that are very good at stuff. Everybody else is not so much good. So most people playing an instrument, not so many people are good at the saxophone, right? But you get a few people who start to practice that really are good at the saxophone. So they looked at it in different ways. They looked at it as in terms of researchers. These were researchers. Researchers, writers, professional athletes, and performers. And they found that there's not really a bell curve in any of those areas. All those are things in which students can excel. All of them, in fact, had what's called the power curve. We had a few people who were very, very good at that. So that means for kids, they're good at something. We don't know what it is yet, but the better the tool is, the more we can explore and find what they're really good at. So we're not leaving all those people behind on the bell curve. We're focusing on this part at the end. And it may be, in fact, that the discovery of what they're really good at, their part of the curve is going to be because you gave them the tool and the encouragement and that non-cognitive thing that made you decide you want to learn. You want to learn not just in school, but for the rest of your life, you're going to be very good. And that's how that works. And one of the reasons why that's significant is something Bloom's taxonomy, right, found out back in the 80s. Bloom in the 80s found that if you could do one-to-one mastery tutoring with kids, every single kid in the experimental group was above 98% in the control group. In other words, you move people into the top 2%, just like that curve, kind of like 2%. You moved them up if you could do one-to-one mastery tutoring. Now, this was great. They knew it then, but it wasn't realistic and it wasn't scalable. You couldn't, in public education, give everybody one-to-one mastery tutoring. Turns out you'd move them up to the upper 2%, but we couldn't afford that, right? Hi, is this my homeroom? Yes, I'm your teacher for 12 years. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way. But one of the things you saw as you moved around this conference, it was fun to sit in the ones that I looked at the ones that was giving algebra data, of people that created tutorials, and the kids could watch it at their own pace and things like that. And suddenly, they moved up a whole grade level, right? The guy that did that data here, did it for his doctoral thesis anyway, moved up a whole grade level. Oh, you did that, right? So, right? I mean, impressive stuff. You could not have done that with the old machines. You just couldn't do it. Now we can. Within 5 years, how much of that stuff were we going to be doing? Lots. Remember that this thing has a camera. Right now the camera goes where I point it. That camera can also watch me. I'm telling you, in a few years, that camera's going to watch me learn. It's going to know that I look at sports word problems, and you look at, I don't know, cliche fashion word problems, or whatever it is, right? You like to look at the perimeter and area stuff, and you like red fonts, and I like turquoise. It's going to know that. It's going to rebuild that book to match me and match you. That means we're getting really close to what Bloom called the 2 sigma problem. We can really lift everything up. Could we conceivably move everybody into the upper 2%, of a control group? I think we can. I think the tools are getting that good. And when that happens, it's going to be very, very cool because we're going to have these kids who come out in with an entirely different experience. And that's the real benefit of going digital. So, last thing is this. Last app. Let's close on an app. So this is an app that terrifies most people in California. It's a seismometer. It's free. And here it is. And if I want to really scare you, I just do this, right? Isn't that fun? But let's see how strong this building is. Ooh, so let's see if we can all move this bar. Let's just check. So if we all do it, there we go. So that's pretty cool. Excellent. We're getting you all ready for Susan. Jump up and down. But here's the other cool part. Is Mike Lawrence in here? Is Mike here? Oh, he's at soccer. That's right. So let me use you then. So come up here. We've just seen how we can measure everything in the room. It's a seismometer. What does it measure, a seismometer? What does it measure? Vibrations. Does he have any vibrations in him? We did it as a group. Does he? Heartbeat. So come here. Let's try it. Here, just come up here. Let's just see if... You see it? Now, I just want you to think how many hands have touched this iPad that's now resting on your shirt. Okay, there we go. So we can actually personalize this app. That's what these machines can do. Thank you very much. So that's how it works. We can do it in a room. We can do it ourselves. That's the power of this revolution that we're doing in. Thanks very much to Mike and to Brian for pulling us all together to let us look at this. But it's going to be a very fun future. Thank you very much. Yay! So everything.